Good day, everyone. I am Ofeba A. Jasid from BSS English 1A, and of course, I am from Group 5, which we will be discussing the revisiting Corazon Aquino's speech before the U.S. Congress in 1986. So, together with my groupmates, we will be carefully analyzing her speech. So, stay tuned and watch the video carefully. Women as leaders seems a fun story to tell for some. They have been ridiculed for the path they chosen. As for some, being a leader is a job for men only. And so, women in history proved them wrong and stood up for the rights of serving the people. One of those women is Maria Corazon Cory Sumulang Coangco Aquino, or better known as Cory Aquino, who served as 11th President of the Philippines from 1986 to 1992. She was the most prominent figure of the 1986 People Power Revolution, which ended the two-decade rule of President Ferdinand Marcos and led to the establishment of the current democratic Fifth Philippine Republic. Corazon Aquino was then married to Senator Benigno Aquino Jr., who was one of the most prominent critics of President Marcos. After the assassination of her husband on August 21, 1983, she emerged as the leader of the opposition against the president. In late 1985, Marcos called for a snap election, and Aquino ran for president with former Senator Salvador Laurel as her running mate for vice president. After the election held on February 7, 1986, the Batasang Pambansa proclaimed Marcos and his running mate Arturo Tolentino as the winners, which prompted allegations of electoral fraud and Aquino's call for massive civil disobedience actions. Subsequently, the People Power Revolution, a non-violent mass demonstration movement, took place from February 22 to 25. The People Power Revolution, along with the defections from the Armed Forces of the Philippines and support from the Philippine Catholic Church, successfully ousted Marcos and secured Aquino's succession to the presidency on February 25, 1986. Prior to her election as president, Aquino had not held any elected office. She was the first female president of the Philippines. As president, Aquino oversaw the drafting of the 1987 Constitution, which limited the powers of the presidency and re-established the bicameral Congress, successfully removing the previous dictatorial government structure. Her economic policies focused on forging good economic standing amongst the international community as well as the disestablishing Marcos-era crony capitalist monopolies, emphasizing the free market and responsible economy. Her administration pursued peace talks to resolve the Moro conflict, and the result of these talks was creation of the autonomous region in Maslo Mindanao. Aquino was criticized for the Menjola massacre, which resulted in the shootings of at least 12 peaceful protesters by Philippine state security forces. The Philippines faced various natural calamities in the latter part of Aquino's administration, such as the 1990 Luzon earthquake, 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption, and the tropical storm Telma.
So, hi, good day. My name is April J. Molina, and I'm here to explain the background of this speech. In 1986, Corazon Cory Cuanco Aquino functioned as the symbol of the restoration of the democracy and overthrow of the Marcos dictatorship. On September 18, 1986, 7 months since Cory became the president of the Philippines, she went to states and spoke before the joint session of the U.S. Congress. On August 23, 1983, Cory told about Ninoy's character, conviction, and to solve the opposing authoritarianism of Marcos. Cory turned the controversial topic of the Philippine foreign debt amounting to $26 billion to time of her speech. She stated in her speech that the death of her husband sparked the revolution and responsibility of the offering democratic alternative had fallen on her shoulder. Cory was able to get the imagination of the people whose right and freedom had long been compromised throughout the Marcos regime.
Happy day to all of you. Today I'm going to discuss content analysis. which includes knowledge of historical allusions and identifies and characterizes the substance of the primary sources of the late former President Corazon Aquinos. Addressed revisiting Cory Aquino's speech before the joint session of the U.S. Congress that was held on year of 1986, September 18. To begin with, her address and a description of how, as Ninoy Aquino's recently widowed wife, she had previously left the United States. She also discussed how her husband passed away in her address, in which she urged the Filipino people to resist the Marcos regime. She mentioned Ninoy being lost 3 times. The first time was when Ninoy and other dissidents were imprisoned by the government. As Cory progressed, Ninoy was accused of subversion, murder, and other crimes after he managed to escape the first incarceration. Excuse me. Ninoy Aquino first disputed the validity of the military court that was used to try him. Ninoy made the decision to go on a 40-day hunger strike in order to cement his images. According to Cory, this was their family's second loss of Ninoy. Ninoy passed away and that's why they last lost Ninoy. In the speech of Cory, Ninoy's passing was a necessary component of the revolution, and it was now her duty to present a democratic alternative. Even though Cory was aware that Marcos was being supported by the canvassing, she was persuaded to run for president despite the fact that public was protesting the corrupt and processive administration. She discussed how the struggles of the people had led to her remarkable win and went on to discuss her first action as president of the restored democracy. Cory also underlines the significance of the EDSA revolution as a constrained revolution that respects every Filipino's life and freedom. In her speech, she also praised the return of a government that was entirely bound by the Constitution and whose laws accorded the Bill of Rights and the utmost respect. During the Marcos hearing, Cory also discussed the contentious issue of the Philippines' $26 billion debt, despite pointing out that the people did not benefit from this debt. She expressed her desire to honor them. She also expressed her outrage at the Philippines' failure to pay these debts to the extent that the Filipino people could afford to do so. As the speech goes, the restoration of democracy and responsible governance, which was the most challenging requirement of the debt negotiations, was also demonstrated by Cory in her address or speech as being accomplished by the Filipino people. Whenever Cory went out, she encountered working-class Filipinos in need. They regularly approached her, pleading that for democracy. She listed a number of obstacles the Filipino people are facing as they try to establish a new democracy, including ongoing communist insurgency and the worsening economy. Because just half of the nation's export revenues or $2 billion were used to pay interest on debt whose advantages the Filipino people never receive it. These issues have gotten worse. Lastly, Cory thankful America for providing her family with a home, for adding in the construction of the Philippines as a new base for democracy, and for demonstrating to the world our two countries share dedications to freedom. So, I think that would be all for the content analysis of the speech of the late former Corazon Aquino. Thank you.
Good day. I'm going to contextualize the history of our country, which is the history of Maria Corazon Aquino. So Maria Corazon of Cory Sumulong Juanico Aquino was the 11th President of the Philippines, becoming the first human to hold office. She was born on January 25, 1933, in Tarlac, Philippines. She graduated from the College of Mount Vincent, New York in 1953 with a bachelor degree in both French and mathematics. In 1986, she became the first Filipino to become Times Person of the Year. She was widely accredited as the Mother of Asian Democracy. November 1986, President Gore delivered a speech during the joint session of the United States Congress. 3 years ago, after the assassination of her husband, former Senator Ninoy Aquino, she applied for financial assistance by informing the Americans about the Philippines state at that time. 7 months after the martial law era that lasted for 14 years, so in giving we received, in losing we find, and out of defeat. We snatched our victory when former President Ferdinand Marcos held and snapped elections to convince the United States of America to lead economic assistance to the Philippines. The Filipino people drove Corazon Aquino to run for the presidency. The commission of the election declared Marcos as the winner, but the people believed that there was an election fraud, and people powers erupted. Filipino dominated those and began the resurgency of our democracy. With this, I was able to learn the history of our liberty. To extend, the document has taught me a broad knowledge about the EDSA People Power Revolution, which the whole world appreciated as well as the opportunity to witness how Filipinos fight for their freedom against Trinity. It is true indeed that Filipino is worth dying for. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. Corazon Aquino's speech before the U.S. Congress was a powerful display of diplomatic rhetoric and political savvy. Her speech effectively communicated her message of gratitude, hope, and determination to strengthen the relationship between the Philippines and the United States. Through her speech, Aquino successfully positioned herself as a leader worthy of respect and support from the international community. She used a combination of personal anecdotes or historical reference and appeals to shared values to build rapport with her audience and establish a common ground for cooperation. Overall, Aquino's speech was a masterful example of effective public speaking and demonstrated her ability to navigate complex political landscapes with grace and poise. Her speech also highlighted the importance of democracy and human rights, which were key issues in her fight against the authoritarian regime of Ferdinand Marcos. Aquino's speech was not only a powerful diplomatic tool but also a significant moment in Philippine history, making the transition from decades of dictatorship to a new era of democracy and freedom. Thank you.